And we are live talking the not-so-Atlantic Coast Conference, ACC, here on the Pump Fake Pod. We got two men in the booth right now for the most part. It's me. It's Elliot as well, too, at I'm_money, and I'm at Michael_Huffer3. And we are the at Pump Fake Pod. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and some other social media here soon. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We are knocking down conference preview number 29. Number 29 in the booth. So only two more to go, Monday and Tuesday next week. Number 30 and number 31, SEC and Big Ten. And then Wednesday, we'll be doing our top 25 annual show and then futures. And then Sunday, November 2nd, mark your calendars. It is no other than our first mega betting show, doing all the games live on Sunday. So for the big 24-hour kickoff slate on Monday, November 3rd. So I'm looking forward to it. Elliot, how we feeling? It's just around the booth, less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah, man. Feeling good, excited for tonight and to kind of wrap up. Speaking, the high major conferences, we've kind of saved the best for last, cream of the crop. So excited to talk ball on these last few conferences, and then discuss some futures and some top 25 stuff, and then we just roll right on into the season, and it'll be March before we know it.
Yes, and ACC last year took a big leap. It was the big conference realignment across the board. Big Ten, ACC nonsense. At least the SEC has some demographic sanity. California, Stanford, SMU, I guess, joins the ACC. Okay. But hey, they worked out really good. So yes, I'm calling it the not-so-Atlantic Conference, but I like the All-Coast Conference there in the chat for Crutch. Thanks for tuning in. But ACC, man, once one of the top-tier cream of the crop conferences, it's kind of blundered, not getting as much funding as the SEC and Big Ten, as that's the money game now. I believe only getting 3 teams in the NCAA tournament, four, with North Carolina going to the first 4 in Dayton somehow. How could I forget? Anyway, and only 6 teams total in the NIT, or 6 teams total in the postseason with 2 in the NIT. So 6 out of 18 teams make the postseason. You're going to see a lot of these last season records going through these previews. Not very good. Elliot, what's going on with the ACC? How do we get them into shape? And is there a brighter outlook for 2025?
Yeah, I think they brought in some good coaches. They've got a little bit more talent across the coaching level, and then they bring back they're more talented top to bottom, in my opinion. I think there's definitely a separation there at the bottom of the conference. However, I think what hurt them last year is you had Duke, Clemson, Louisville, and then kind of everybody else. And so the addition of some offseason coaches, along with a lot of transfer portal pieces that many of these programs brought in, I think has bolstered the ACC. Should be a little bit of a stronger conference this year, and they should get. I'm pretty confident in saying they'll get more than 4 in. Joke that North Carolina got in last year. That's kind of a caveat asterisk for me. So really, I think they only got 3 in last year. I think we see maybe them double up, get 5 or 6. But yeah, I think this is a stronger conference, at least within the top, at least 8 to 10, a little bit deeper this year. So should be a little bit more exciting year. I don't think we're going to see a Duke team go undefeated in conference play, or 19-1, and then you had Louisville and Clemson both go 18-2. So I don't think we see the top 3 having those kind of records. I think there's going to be a little bit more of a a carousel in terms of wins and losses here in the ACC, and they go back to a 18 game schedule. They've been playing the 20 game schedule. This year they go back down to an 18 game schedule in the conference as well.
Yeah, I don't know about the 20 games, and then get a bye game or two and allowed for the MTE. Yeah, Virgil. I mean, potentially, and and like just like NC State, Virgil. Thanks for tuning in. But got some good news for you. We'll be reaching out to you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. We got the betting shows coming up. November 2nd is our betting show, Virgil. So looking forward to having your takes and tuning in. But without further ado, on the ACC, we might as well get into it. We got 18 teams to go through. Some mediocre teams. I think it's going to be a couple wins off of each other. I mean, from finishing 8th in the conference to finishing 16th, you're 3 wins off from each other. So, um, and a lot of teams tied for 6th or 8th in the conference. So, let's see if the ACC can make a jump and whatnot. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going every team alphabetically, and then we rank all the teams. This is our, again, 29th conference preview. 2 more to go next week, SEC, Big Ten, and then we go into our betting futures show and major betting show November 2nd. This is the Pump Fake Pod. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks. All right. Boston College. Talk about maybe not taking a jump, who had a big future or big expectations last offseason, coming off around a 20-something win season out of Chestnut Hill. 12-19 though last season, took a blunder. 4-16 with 1 returning starter under Earl Grant. 61-72 with 4 years. So they've had some talent roll into to Boston College, but they're pretty young from what I'm looking at on their roster, top to bottom. They kind of lack experience. They bring size and whatnot. So have a good front court and an okay back court as well too when with your starters. But when it comes to looking at your bench, there may be some issues with some depth problems. But recruiting young, so maybe Grant's just kind of cashing it in and saying, let's plan for the future and build it back up. But coming into year 5, 20-win season, now you're trying to get back to that 20-win season glory. I don't foresee it for Boston College, unfortunately, this season, just because the talent that they have. So, yes, I like some of their pieces, especially in their front court. I think to me that's their biggest strength. I like that what they bring down low, getting second chance opportunities, but I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up defensively with some of these top ACC teams. But of course, they can get some wins. They were horrible last year, still managed 4 wins, finished not last, but 17th. So yeah, we'll see how it ends up for Boston College, but I think they'll be struggling to get out of that 15 to 18 range, 14.
Yeah, I like Earl Grant as a coach there for Boston College. Got a lot of respect for him and kind of what he's done, especially coming off that 20-win season the year before last. You lose 3 others to the transfer portal, and then you lose a guy to the NBA, and that kind of creates the issue of what they kind of had last year, going 12-19 and finishing at the damn near bottom of the conference. I do think, the one returning starter that you mentioned, Donald Hand Jr., he's a guy last year, averaged just under 16 points a game, shot 37% from the 3, and averaged about 2.5 made threes per game. So that was a big kind of, I wouldn't say but a big keep for them, just to be able to keep him within the program, not allow him to kind of transfer. He earned ACC Most Improved Player last year. So I think he takes another step forward. But like you said, when it comes to all the transfer pieces that they brought in, not quite sure if it's going to be good enough to kind of get it done here in the ACC. I think they're definitely going to be one of those teams that I had mentioned at the beginning where, that bottom 4 or 5 is pretty pretty cut and dry, I think, and I think they're definitely going to be within that realm. I know the media poll came out; they have them ranked last here in the ACC, so they might be somewhat accurate. I know we tend to not really worry about what the media says, but I think they're seeing it just like we are. Couple things that I'll highlight for them. They play in the Charleston Classic kind of early on in the season, so that'll be cool for them. We'll kind of see what they've got early against some kind of mid-major competition, and then for some reason they kind of escape having to play North Carolina, which we'll get to North Carolina. I don't think they're necessarily as blue blood of a team as they typically are. But with this new kind of conference schedule, only having 18 games, there's going to be a team that they don't play, which is kind of weird.
The blue bloods never leave. Never leave. The blue blood, it never leaves. It stays blue forever. Talking to a Hoosier fan here. But anyway, yeah, I'm not too high on Boston College's roster, but I will point out Connie Chanda, 6'9" sophomore. I think he put on some weight this year. He looks like he's gonna be one of their big men shooters. So, like I mentioned, I do like their front court, especially led by Chanda, but super young and inexperienced for Boston College with Earl Grant in year 5. California Golden Bears, Berkeley, California, last season 14-19, 6-14, finished 15th. 2 returning starters for Mark Madsen in year 3. You bring back Ryan Petratus, averaged 8 points a game. DJ Campbell averaged 8 points a game. So some continuity there, bringing back those pieces. They transferred in from Air Force in Western Carolina. Good shooters under California. And then you got Lee Dort as well too. Vanderbilt transfer, so coming in, and then Chris Bell, Ames. So I actually kind of like California's roster. I know on paper they're not going to be the most they're not going to be highly ranked at the top, but I kind of like their roster. I think they can sneakily win games and especially cover. I thought they overperformed last year going into it. Thought they'd be at the bottom of the barrel, and they were. They finished 15th, but getting 6 wins, 2 wins away from being tied for 8th in the conference. I think it's a good step for Cal. So that's the major step. You're either tied for 8th or 14th and 15th, which I think is crazy for the ACC stats last year, which to your point may be different under the 2-game difference in conference play. But yeah, I like Cal's roster. I don't know about Madsen as much as I do Earl Grant. If you could switch the team with the coach, but yeah, I mean, you bring in a transfer from Georgia State and Nolan Dorsey from Campbell as well too. Georgia State's DK Manuel Dewitt. That's my best pronunciation. Sorry on that. So yeah, they're pretty young as well too. They're building for the future, but Madsen's kind of has to prove it to me somewhat under Cal. So um, yeah, but I thought they overperformed last year, and I think I like their roster. Maybe they can be interesting, but they're not going to squeak past some of these teams that we're going to mention.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I like the roster that Mark Madsen's kind of built here. Second year in the ACC for Cal. I think the biggest thing that we're always going to talk about, Virgil just kind of mentioned it in the chat, is for these teams that are out west with Cal and Stanford, just the fact that they're having to constantly travel, across 3 different time zones to the East Coast and kind of play. I think it really puts them at a disadvantage. Because they're doing it more than anybody else on the East Coast, just because the East Coast only has to travel a couple times, whereas Cal and Stanford seem to be traveling all the time. So I think it puts them at a disadvantage here, having to go on the road so far away from home. But you mentioned Dede Ames. He was a kid that started for K-State as a true freshman. Was kind of a true freshman point guard for us. Lefty, smooth lefties from Chicago. Really liked his game. Was disappointed that he ended up transferring. I thought if he was able to kind of be built up in the system, he would have been a very good player there in the Big 12. So I'm high on him, and I think it kind of the team will kind of rely on him as that starting point guard, and just they'll kind of go as far as he can take them. A couple guys also freshmen that I'll mention: Giovanni Ruff and Simitri Carr, two guys both from California that were four-star prospects coming out of high school. So see if any of those two can maybe make some immediate impacts for Matson there. But yeah, I'm curious to see. Obviously bringing Ritas Petritis back. He had a big impact from there in his first year, coming from Air Force last year. Second year in the ACC, you would expect that maybe Matson makes the appropriate changes to be a little bit better. You also bring in Nolan Dorsey from Campbell, another guy that I think possibly could be a piece for them, along with Milos Ilic, coming over from Loyola, Maryland. He averaged 14.5 points, 7.5 rebounds. So another kind of a big Serbian guy, 6'10" guy that I think can get it done for them. Cal's always seemed to had, at least for sure under Matson here, they've always had these big international guys in Petritis and now in Illich, who will maybe get it done. So I think they stay similar. I don't see them, really taking a huge step forward in terms of they're in the ACC. But like you said, they'll have to prove it to me. But I do like the roster construction. Definitely has a significant upside comparative to some other rosters that we'll look at.
Yeah. I mean, let's see what Cal can do. I think let's see what Madsen can do too. He needs to prove it to me for me to be a little higher on them, but I do like their roster. Clemson Tigers, talk about overperforming recently, and his ass was on the hot seat and turned it around, was flirting with other jobs. Clemson, South Carolina, last season 27-7, 18-2, tied for second, one returning starter, so lose a ton of pieces, and Shefflin and all these dudes. I mean, a lot of producers last year that's going to be an issue, but um, he went to the transfer portal, got UAB transfer Butta Johnson, and then you also got Jake Whalen from Utah, RJ Godfrey from Georgia, a couple other pieces, a Utah Valley transfer. So he went to the portal, and I think Brennell's done a good job in the portal as well too. He's one of those coaches that has been around for quite some time. That also he's done well in the portal, but you do bring back Dylan Hunter at least, so some producing pieces there. And the transfers that you brought in are able to produce. So he brings in tons of scoring with those guys that I mentioned as well. So they've been able to win games in the ACC, and I think they're going to do that. And it's been a tough home environment lately for the Tigers. So at least Hunter's is able to come in with a little chip on his shoulder, knowing how to play with some of these teams. And they're always going to be contenders, in my opinion. I don't know if they have better, like a better roster like they did last year. I don't see them winning 18 games, but I certainly do see them being at the top half of this conference and being just short of being contenders. But especially that they're going to win games at home. Brunell thinks becoming a good coach, and Dylan Hunter coming back. So, good story with Chase Hunter. So I'm all about Clemson. I like Clemson. They're becoming a basketball school and slowly turn away from a football school, while IU does the opposite. But not this year, though. Stay tuned. Big Ten preview Tuesday.
Yeah, so Bernal here has done a great job here after being on the hot seat, kind of lit a fire under his ass to kind of get it going. And I think the portal has significantly helped him. Being friends with Dabo maybe saved him his job. And now they're, pouring in some money on the NIL front to the basketball team as well as the football team, which has helped to bring in some good players throughout these last few years. And, it translated. They've won 23 or more games the last 3 seasons and set a program record last year with the 27 wins. So while I don't see that maybe they're going to get to that point, I still think they'll get over that 20-win mark again. I think the ACC is a little bit tougher this year, so I'm right there with you. Don't think that we're going to see an 18-2 record. I honestly don't think that even the top team will have an 18-2 record personally, in my opinion, this year. But big guy that I'm pretty high on is Nick Davidson. transfers in from Nevada, averaged 16 points, 6.5 rebounds, shot at 37.1% from the three. Big guy that fits, is kind of the epitome of what Clemson, has built. Playing slow,
Yep.
playing deliberate, defensive minded. They always have that big white guy that's super skilled, and Nick Davidson is the guy that kind of fits the mold here. They also bring in his a freshman, Blake Davidson, his brother, who had originally signed from Nevada, and then when Nick decided to transfer, Blake followed him over. So curious to see if he gets any burn this year. And then, uh, you'd mentioned with Dylan Hunter, backing up his big brother, see if he can, fill the starting role and fill shoes of big brother. I don't think he's as good offensively. Only averaged about 5.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 2 steals. But I do think he just brings a savviness, a defensive intensity, and he's a solid point guard, solid leader. I don't think you're going to get a lot on the offensive side for him like you did with his brother. However, I think he's going to be a great addition, and they're going to expect him to be one of their key leaders and key pieces to kind of keep it going there at Clemson, and hopefully maybe get over that 23 win mark for a fourth straight season. So I'm high on Clemson again. I think they're going to be in the top half of the conference. I would say top third of the conference, probably more than likely. Maybe not second like they were last year. But I do think that they maybe bounce back, and they had that disappointing first round exit there in the NCAA tournament. And I think maybe they can, as they get better throughout the season, maybe can make a run, win a couple games in the tournament for the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Clemson definitely been a good team, and then they played McNeese this year, right? Only loss, only upset in the first round last year, or not the only upset, but if you count like 8-9, but like you know what I mean. Anyway, Duke out of Durham, North Carolina last season. The Blue Devils were 35-4, 19-1 on ACC, but whole new pieces, whole new rebrand, classic Duke. But they brought in some dogs. Don't you worry. John Shire, 89-22 in 3 years, so he's done a good job under his replacement of filling big shoes for Coach K. That's what it talks about, hiring within, being into the system versus trying to get a whole new brand in there. But you do lose, obviously, Cooper Flagg, Tyrese Proctor, Con Kneppel, Mason Gillis, even Malik. So tons of pieces lost for Duke, but a whole new rebrand, and they went young. And I think that their front court's going to be their main strength. You bring in Carlos Boozer's son and Cameron Boozer. You have Malik Brown, senior, though, coming back, and then you have Nicholas Kamina from Los Angeles, 6'8" sophomore or 6'8" freshman coming in, and he's going to be that guy that could be that two-way player. That's going to be massive for Duke that we saw last year, being such a major strength from kind of everyone on their roster. So of course they're going to be high coming in. I think there may be some growing pains with their inexperience, but just because they don't have like a Cooper Flag talent, but the talent that they have is fantastic overall as well. So you have tons of McDonald's All-Americans as well. So and then you have Caleb Foster, who was a freshman last year. Uh, or excuse me, sophomore last year, so he's going to be a junior. So some continuity for Duke going in there. So I like Duke. Of course, their talent's going to be good. I think their strength's going to be down low in their front court with Boozer, like we mentioned. Look out for him, freshman of the year, player of the year potential, of course. And at the end of the day, it's always Duke. I mean, they're ranked. They're going to be ranked in the top 5. They're going to be playing in all the big games, non-conference, and maybe we see some growing pains. But Shire's a good coach. He's been able to work with the young guys, and that's what Duke does. That's their method, and that's their method. And there's going to be so much talent as well in the backcourt to support that massive front court that top to bottom they're going to be stacked yet again. So yeah, I like Duke. How can you not? Um, they're probably the favorite to win for everyone. Definitely in the media poll in this conference, but maybe not mine. So we'll see.
Yeah, as always, Duke reloads with the talent. I think Coach K did a fantastic job, kind of, uh, setting up Shire for immediate success, kind of showing them the game plan, and then obviously it's Duke. You're going to get all those talented freshmen. You're going to get some transfers just by the name brand and the money that they have backing them. Uh, you know, uh, the Boozer twins, man, they're going to be fun to watch, particularly Cameron there down low. He's a one and done player, similar to Flag, more of a post presence. I expect him to obviously be kind of the key core piece for Duke, and they'll kind of play around him. And then don't sleep on Caden Boozer, though. I think he's going to be a solid guard for them coming off the bench. Another guard that I like, Isaiah Evans. He was a freshman last year, played some good minutes. Didn't really play a lot of minutes, about 13 and a half minutes a game. However, when he came in, he was pretty effective, 7 points a game, shot 41% from the three, pretty good from the free throw line as well. So I think he takes a step forward here in his sophomore year. And then the guy that I think a lot of people maybe are forgetting about, but Patrick Ngongba. He's another center who kind of started last year a few games, but more so came off the bench. Had a foot injury that really kind of prevented him from playing as many minutes as he would have liked to last year, only averaged about 10 and a half minutes. But I think with a combo of Cameron Boozer starting there at center, and then they bring in Patrick Ngongba, who's 7 foot 250, shoots 72% from the field. I think it's going to be a good 1-2 punch down low for Duke, and then you spread them around with some good shooters, some talented guards. I like what they have here. I don't see it being another 19-1 repeat in first place in the ACC, but they're not going anywhere. Coach Shire has proven he's a good coach. I think maybe even the fact that they don't have a Cooper Flag is maybe will benefit them here coming down the stretch, particularly in the NCAA tournament. We saw kind of last year in the ACC tournament. I know Cooper Flag missed the ACC tournament at the end because of injury, but down the stretch, they really tried to rely on him to get a bucket at the end of the game and didn't really have a really good offensive game plan down the stretch. It was like, hey, all eyes were on him and he had to make a play. And it kind of, ended up costing them down the stretch. So I think the fact that they've got to rely together and play more as a team and get a little bit more continuity will maybe help them come March. But yeah, definitely high on Duke. I think they finish, top 3 or 4 for sure. And I'm just excited to see these freshman talents that they constantly bring in and how they impact the game here at the college level. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I mean it's Duke, like we've mentioned. It's not one of my favorite teams personally, even in all of sports. So outside of just the college basketball sphere, but yep, good team to bet on most of the time. Most of the time, but sometimes the spread catches up. But we'll be betting soon enough. But Duke, yeah, they'll be in my top 25 for sure. Probably in the top part of the top 25. But yeah, fuck Duke. All right, Florida State. The Seminoles out of Florida State, Tallahassee, Florida. Last season, 17-15, 8-12, tied for ninth, 0 returning starters, and you bring in NBA Luke Laux. I don't know how to say his last name. Luke Laux. Luke Laux.
I think it's
He's
locks. Just locks.
Laux. He's 35, just so you know. Division One's youngest coach. Insane, by the way. As I gotta say, but
I will
I don't
say
know.
he's not the youngest.
He's one of the youngest, right?
Youngest
Or
in
no?
the ACC. Guy from Nichols is the
Oh,
youngest,
oh,
I think, right
oh
now.
yeah.
Right now.
Someone's 33 that we talked about too. I think now I'm thinking about it. You're right.
Yeah. Tavon Sadler, I think he's only 31. I was just looking it up. I don't think it's going to tell me his age, but I know he's really young. But regardless, I think he's the youngest in the ACC for sure.
I think he may be. I think he may be youngest in the entire Division One. But
Tavon
anywho,
Sadler's 30.
okay, perfect. But yeah, this is a rebuild. I mean, you get rid of Leonard Hamilton, who was there for 20 plus years, definitely did a good job for Florida State throughout his career, and now you have to take over a brand new. I don't care who you have, and you have the transfer portal to help a little bit. You do bring in a Clemson transfer, Chauncey Wiggins, which is good. Wiggins also has Kobe McGee, Robert McCray the fifth, Lejay Jones. So definitely some shooters. And then McCray, who also could play both sides of the ball, coming from Jacksonville. So not too far of a move either from him going to Jacksonville over to Florida State. But yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I playing it could work. He definitely could bring some passion back to Florida State, get some life into this program, and they definitely have the money and resources for it. But I think it's going to be a tough hurdle year one. I definitely don't. See them taking a step back. I like the talent that they brought in, but year one, complete rebuild. It's never easy in college basketball, and sometimes it takes that second or third year, especially in a top to bottom P5 school that has a lot of talent and a lot of good teams, and even the mediocre teams um, can definitely get you. So Florida State could certainly well be in the bottom half of, if not the bottom of the barrel of my ACC predictions. So more power to them. I think they've taken the step in the right direction. It's going to be a good rebuild, and they definitely are building for the future versus this year. But they do have shooters. They're going to be able to win games. I'm curious to see how Luke Locks coaches and brings his style of play. So that's kind of a wild card for me personally. But the talent with shooters, I expect them to kind of have that run and gun style of play, mimicking all kind of college basketball now. So yeah, Seminoles bottom half, but definitely building for the future and brought in some shooters as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Just another team. We talked about Utah bringing in a guy from the NBA ranks. Several schools are trying to go this route. Luke Locks, kind of makes maybe a little bit of sense. He played 4 seasons there at Florida State, led them to their first ever ACC tournament championship in 2012 when he was there. So he's familiar with the campus, familiar with the school. So that kind of makes sense. But it's his first ever coaching gig, head coaching gig, I should say. Comes in as being an assistant there in the NBA. So he's going to be first time, being the head guy in charge, calling all the shots. I think it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. Not saying he can't do it, but it's going to be a very slow season and a learning curve for him. Big learning curve for him. First roster includes 11 new players. You had mentioned 7 transfers, 4 freshmen. Biggest thing for me is typically Leonard Hamilton had a lot of guys that had a lot of size and physicality down low. That's something that this team, just looking at the roster overall, lacks. I think they're tremendously not very deep in the front court, and they're very lacking in the front court as well. And I think that's where it's going to kind of pose a problem for them, especially as we just talked about, Duke having a tremendous front court. And there's several other ACC teams that do have a great front court, like a Louisville, like a Clemson, just to name a few. So I think that's really where they're going to struggle. Their guards may be able to hold their own and score. However, I think the front court is really going to be where the disadvantage is, and that's where they're going to lack and struggle. And that's kind of why I think they're going to be, take a step back. Leonard Hamilton's last year didn't end very well. I don't think this season's going to end even the same as last year. I think to take a step back here. And we'll see if Luke Locks is the guy, if he can make that transition as a first-time head coach in Division One. We'll see, but interested to see how it kind of translates. They're, I'm not really high on them, just to be frank.
All right, Frank. Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets out of Atlanta, Georgia, last season 17-17, 10-10 in the ACC, a perfect 500. Call that an octopus. One in returning starter. Coach Damon Stoudemire, 31-35. Don't let the record deceive you. Georgia Tech's going in the right step, and they're moving in the right direction, taking steps forward. And I think I like Stoudemire as a coach as well too. I didn't like the hire initially, proving me wrong. Happy to be wrong. Not one of those guys. Love when I'm right. Hate when I'm wrong. Don't hate when I'm wrong. No, I don't hate when I'm wrong, but I'm just saying hate when I lose. Definitely hate when I lose, but um, I don't care about being wrong about Damon Stoudemire because I think he's a great coach. He's definitely worked with what he has. He hasn't had the best talent. He's won games. He's been in games. I think they're competitive for most of the time in some of these games, even against high-powered teams. So went to the NIT last year. That's always a good step, and I think the talent that they brought in is going to be just fine, even only having one returning starter. So you do have let's see. Let's look at the roster. You got Mohamed Silla coming in from Senegal. So he's Stoudemire is going to the portal, getting one of the top centers in the not in the portal in the entire recruiting class. So he's going young as well, and then bringing in some portal time also, and then getting a lot of recruits as well from the area in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's always good to see, bringing in some local guys. I'm always a fan of that. You also get transfer Cam Kraft, who shot the ball well and plays good defense from Miami, Ohio after their high season. And then Lamar Washington from Pacific. Pretty sure Stoudemire also coached at Pacific. Don't prove me wrong if you can fact
You're
check
correct.
that, but I'm pretty sure that he did. So
You're
that's
correct.
always good. And then so there's some good transfers, and now they got some freshmen. So they may be lacking depth with this the amount of inexperience that they have, and but Stoudemire, great coach. I think he's going to be able to work with what he got, and I really like the steps that they're going in the right direction, and trying to be competitive in the ACC again. Looking at my notes, but again, this may be kind of a step back. You finish eighth, tied for eighth is or not eighth. You finish eighth, um, just above tied from ninth, almost seventh, and then squeaking just two games back from SMU. So, yeah, I like Georgia Tech, but this may be a step back with all the inexperience that they have. We'll see if the freshmen can translate right away. Maybe not immediately in the ACC, but yeah, I mean they're going to be talented. They're gonna be able to score the ball. They're gonna be ferocious down low as well in the front court. But again, just that inexperience could be a hurdle for in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for them was keeping Bay and Ndongbo, Ndongo, sorry, from entering the transfer portal. I think he could have went elsewhere and collected a good check at a different school, but they were able to kind of get him to return. He was kind of third team all ACC last year, averaged 13 and a half points, 9 rebounds, was their best player. And then they have a redshirt freshman, Dylan Thompson, who I'm kind of looking out for to making a good impact for Damon Stoudemire here. And then another freshman that I'll mention is Kai Fleming, 4-star guy that they brought in. He's a guy that I think is going to be a solid piece for them as well. And then they kind of shored up the backcourt. You'd mentioned Cam Kraft. They shored up the backcourt with Chaz Kelly, comes in from Boston College, kind of a backup point guard role, who I think just adds a veteran style of play and veteran experience and depth there at the point guard role. And then lastly, they bring in Peyton Marshall, 7-footer from Missouri. We'll see. Didn't really play much for Missouri, but bringing in a guy that's 7 foot, 300 pound, tremendous size, and played in the SEC. I guess is a lenient term. Participated in the SEC is probably more like it. We'll see if that can translate to the ACC. If he can get in a little bit better shape and play for Damon Stoudemire. I think Georgia Tech's going to be similar as they were last year. They might finish around the same spot, be kind of the definition of average as they were last year, maybe eke out a few more wins in the non-conference, or they might struggle a little bit with all these new pieces. So, I could see them being similar. I mean, Damon Stoudemire's kind of hovered over around that 500 mark since he's been there. So, in his 2 years there. So, entering his third year, I think he's going to kind of be around the same. I think he, brought in good pieces, was able to retain some key guys, which is helpful. And I don't think that, they're going to be, hurting or necessarily taking a big step back. So I see him kind of hovering right there around that 500 mark again.
All right. The Louisville Cardinals, baby. Ooh, some recent news getting a G League player. Louisville, Kentucky, last season 27-8, 18-2, tied for second. You bring back 4 returning starters for Pat Kelsey year 2, and boy, it's looking tasty. Let me tell you, Louisville's looking nice. Love all the pieces that they have, and Pat Kelsey knows how to coach a basketball team, and he's found his basketball program. This team was awful under Kenny Payne. Talk about a rebuild where it doesn't have to happen in 3 years or 2 years. This can happen right away, which is maybe a team that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But look, I'm trying to find my notes here. Shit. But I love Louisville. Pat Kelsey, Louisville is how they like to say it. I was just down in that area drinking bourbon. It was a good time last week. But yeah, man, I like Louisville. How can you not? They may even be my number 1 team. I think talent wise, you just bring back in that G player or G League player also. And it just feels like Louisville's kind of back, man. Like their old Patino days and the Peyton Siva, Kevin Ware nonsense, Gorgie Jang, like just all those guys, man, just solid pieces top to bottom. And Kelsey knows how to coach, and I like the way he coaches as well. So you do bring back Ryan Conwell, which was a major key in replacing some people, and also Kashawn Pryor as well coming back. Maybe not right away, but I'll be interested to see if when Pryor gets back fully healthy, because that was tough for them to lose, and they still did okay. You also got Khalifa, big man down low, Javon Hadley, and then freshman Mikael Brown Jr. So he's going to be hurdled right away into the starting lineup. Talent-wise, man, these guys are going to be good. And now that G League player coming in, look out for Louisville, man. They're going to be very dangerous and definitely maybe worth a future as well too. Maybe stay tuned next Wednesday for our future episode. And yes, Terry Rozier Patino Mob Days for sure. Get the strippers in the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, so that Huff, that G League player, London Johnson, he's not going to be playing this year. He committed for 2026.
It's for next year. Okay,
It's for
cool.
next
Because
year,
I
yeah.
saw all these G League players are going. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, just give it up.
No,
guys.
I thought the same thing. I was like, there's no way he can just sign on right now after school's already been in session for 2 months and then be a play. But I think the plan, I think when I was reading, was for him to enroll middle of the year, so at December, and for the winter term. But then he's going to sit out because he doesn't want to waste half his eligibility for just to return for just January to March. So he'll play next year. But regardless of that, I think that this team might be the most talented in the ACC. Just kind of looking at them top to bottom. Not only did they bring in Mikael Brown, like you said, as that high touted recruit, but they brought in Ryan Conwell coming over from Xavier, veteran guard, averaged 16.5 points a game last year for Xavier. And then you also bring in Isaac McNeely, comes in from Virginia, another high major guy who averaged 14.5 points a game, shot 42.5% from 3. Javon Hadley comes back. You had mentioned Khalifa, another guy that I'll mention that I'm really high on that I think is going to be kind of a key reserve for them is Adrian Woolley. A lot of people remember him last year, played at Kennesaw State, he was a dog last year, only a sophomore this year. He's averaged 18.5 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 42.5% from 3. He showed that he could compete right away. Conference USA Freshman of the Year last year. I think he's going to be, first man off the bench, if not second man off the bench. And he's going to be one of those guys that is really impactful for this Louisville team. And then lastly, the guy that kind of is forgotten about, I think, is Kashawn Pryor. who's coming off that ACL injury, who was gonna
he's I don't know if is he gonna play right away. I'm not sure about that. If he's gonna play
yeah,
right away, I
I'd
called
have
that
to
out too. I mean, you got to expect him to come off the bench, maybe not getting full minutes, but
for sure.
that's even scarier because if he's gonna
Yeah,
be playing with second units as well too. I love that guy, South
yeah.
Florida native.
No, crazy ass motherfucker. That's about the only way I can describe that guy, especially when he's got that bleach blonde hair. Um, but yeah, I think from all that I've seen, is he's playing full go. I think like you said, he's probably going to come off the bench and they're going to kind of ramp him up minutes wise. But the fact that you get him back, just to further adds to the depth in the front court, and he's a guy that can shoot it really well from the free throw line. And so, when you come down the stretch to have a guy that's 6'10", can handle the ball, but also can shoot the free throw pretty well, that's big to have. You can kind of put him at the 5. I know he's undersized in the weight department, but you put him at the 5 just down low, and you can be solid, hit free throws down the stretch to really take some games that are obviously going to be close here in the very competitive ACC. So I I love what Pat Kelsey did here. I love all the pieces that he brought in on the transfer portal, people that he brought in the freshman class as well, and it's going to be a fun year for the Louisville Cardinals. I think big one kind of to circle November 13th. They go and they play Kentucky. So Battle of Kentucky is early on the season. They start out with I think USC Upstate and another team. Not quite sure. Haven't looked at the schedule in a couple of days. But then they, November 13th is that game on the schedule where we're really going to see what's made of for both Kentucky and Louisville.
Oh yeah, always a must watch. All right, the Hurricanes out of Miami, out of Coral Gables, last season 7-24, 3-17, 0 returning starters, and no coach back either because Larinaga left them. And boy, they were awful. They were terrible to watch. They were awful. They lacked any give a shit whatsoever. But randomly could be good one half, and maybe the one time we bet on them last year, it worked out after giving up on them at the end. But dude, they're going to be good. Jai Lucas right away taking the step, betting on himself. I got to respect that. Of course, leaving Duke's program, going into Miami to bet on himself and getting in some pieces right away. You get transfer Malik Renew, my guy from IU, love him, a great guy as well too. And then also True Washington from New Mexico, Jordan Key from Georgia, Trey Donaldson from Michigan. I mean, talent-wise, dude, they're going to be ready to compete. So let's see if they can gel right away. Malik Renew's a presence. He loves getting that down low, kind of in and out move, and also is able to kind of flex his shooting muscle. He definitely improved his shot last year. So, man, I think right away this is a year one like coaching job that could be the right move immediately. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. Just screenshot me, by the way. I'm excited about it, and I think Jai Lucas is immediately going to make an impact for Miami with the talent that they brought in, and I think that they're going to be competing. Man, they were just bottom feeders at the end, immediately laughing stocks. Now they're going to come back to the ACC and compete. Look out for flirting with the top 5 to top half finish in this conference with all the talent. So, and getting an NCAA tournament bid for first-year coach Jai Lucas. Go Malik Renew. Oh, he said University of Indiana.
Yeah, man. It's this Miami team is a wild card team for me. I wanted to say Florida State was a kind of a wild card team for me as well. However, I just don't think that they're going to have a very high ceiling here in this first year. But I think the opposite is true here. I think Jai Lucas is a coach. His dad was a proven coach. I think he's learned. I know it's his first time as a head coach calling all the shots. but I think he's going to be ready for it. I think he can lean on his dad's experience, asking a veteran coach like his dad, the right questions, figuring it all out. I think will benefit him. And so I really think, with all the talent that they brought in that you had mentioned, it makes them a wild card team here where uh, definitely sure as hell not finishing last in the conference like they did last year. I'm high on Ernest Uday. He's a guy that was originally at Kansas and then transferred to TCU. Really tall, big, athletic 7-footer, 6'11", averaged 6.5 points, 7.5 rebounds last year for TCU. And then another guy that I'm pretty high on too is True Washington. Comes over from New Mexico, averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds. Didn't shoot it as good from the three. It was only 33.5%. So maybe he can take a step forward there. But then Trey Donaldson, he's always a guy, kind of the typical prototype point guard. You're not going to get him as more of the scoring guard, as some people like out of the point guard role, but he's your more traditional point guard who's going to take care of the ball, run the offense. But yeah, just looking at the roster top to bottom as a whole, very intrigued by all the pieces that he brought in, internationally, transfer wise, in the freshman kind of area too. So, like I said, Miami's going to be a wild card. Definitely don't have them finishing near the bottom this year. I see them maybe taking a leap forward and finishing kind of middle of the pack, possibly even higher if all the pieces can kind of be put together appropriately. And then watch out for Dante Allen, 4-star freshman. He's another guy. Just keep an eye out for him. Maybe, might not provide an immediate impact, but throughout the year, as he gets more experience at that D1 level, I think he'll get a little bit more comfortable and start to produce like he did at Montverde Academy.
Elliot, you always read one. Hubie Davis.
Why them?
You get to read 2 tonight since no 3 men in the booth.
2?
Yeah.
I mean, I really like how you technically we should have done NC State before North Carolina if we want to get technical, because NC comes before NO. But I'll let it slide since you make all these slides.
Well, if we get technical, what's the NC stand for?
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
State, which comes before TAR.
Well, that's not the same thing.
I know. No, you're right. You're correct. If you're going North Carolina State all out, you're right. Okay, North Carolina goes before. I was just giving you a little shit.
I know. I'm fucking with you.
Okay, North Carolina Tar Heels. They're out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Last season, 23-14 under Hubert Davis in his 4th season last year. 101-45 overall. They have 1 returning starter and a team that finished 13-7 last year in the ACC, which was good for tied 4th. And let me pull up my deal.
Yeah, I mean, of course they're going to get like media attention and love, but I can't be too high on the Tar Heels as much. I mean, they're going to be competitive. They're going to be just fine. They're going to win games, but
my first thought was, you roll it into just like what happened last year. You're a blue blood. You get the pity last 4 in playing in Dayton, and then we're leading off this season with you get the pity ranked number 25, last team in the top 25 because you're a blue blood. You're going to lose 2 or 3 games right at the very beginning of conference or non-conference play. Going to get knocked out. And everybody's going to be like, well, why the hell did they rank them in the first place? But yeah, it's hard for me to see, exactly what they're going to be like. Obviously, when it comes to losing RJ Davis, Elliot Cadeau from last year, 2 guards that they relied heavily on RJ Davis and the scoring role. But then there's several other guys like Ian Jackson was another guy who, I think they're going to significantly miss. projected starters, I think you got the point guard Kion Evans. He comes over from Colorado State. He's a Kansas City, Missouri kid from Staley High School. I kind of like his game. He played really well in that Mountain West tournament, which kind of led them to that boost to get them into the second round of the NCAA tournament. So, bring him in from Colorado State after Medved left. You do bring back Seth Trimble, who I think is going to be their starting shooting guard. And then you also have Luka Bogovac. He's a freshman from Montenegro, kind of comes in as a 3-point marksman type of a guy, shot 40% there internationally. You have Caleb Wilson, another freshman, McDonald's All-American. And then you got Henry Vassar, comes in from Arizona, so 7-footer, guy who's proven, from a talented conference like the Big 12, averaged 9.5 points, 5 rebounds. So they brought in some good pieces, some unproven pieces as well. I had mentioned Caleb Wilson and Luka Bogovac, 2 guys that are freshmen who haven't played here at the high D1 level. So. While they have talent, I'm curious to see how it translates on the court, and what it kind of looks like overall for the team as a whole. Hot take for me, I think that they might be when we're talking about the triangle, they might be the last in the triangle this year.
I just can't be too high on. I think Vassar is going to be great. They like I was going to mention, they're playing tall ball, a little NBA style that we've seen, a lot of tall ball. So they're going to be playing some height. I think their strength is going to be in the front court for sure. I love Vassar on that call out, but North Carolina will be fine in the ACC, but we'll see how they do in the non-conference. Probably better than last year, to be honest. But non-conference was miserable for them. But I don't expect to be too high on them early.
Projected third to finish third in the conference after you lose all 5 starters. The ridiculousness of what people think
how
of
bad they
were
were, though. But
anywho,
NC State, the Wolfpack, a Final Four bid to being fired the following year in Raleigh, North Carolina for Kevin Keats. Last season, 12-19, 5-15, 0 returning starters, and you bring in a whole new coach in Will Wade coming from McNeese State. Will Wade brings 2 players in Kadir Copeland and Alan Breed, so very good producers for McNeese State, and then also some transfer portal guys is going to make an immediate impact. So Will Wade does great in the portal. Again, another year 1 coach that I think could be just fine doing a rebuild. Yet again, like we said with Jai Lucas in Miami. So I'm curious to see how those players translate to the ACC. They definitely had talent that they played early on in their career in the non-conference that can compete, and definitely played an ACC team before as well too. So Will Wade's going to bring this around. I definitely think there's going to be a major turnaround. They do go to the Maui Invitational as well too, play Auburn, Kansas. So they're going to compete right away. They're going to be playing some good basketball yet again. So one guy from Keats's roster, Paul McNeil, kind of tall guy. So he's probably just an absolute staple as well. And then Jerry Dang from Florida State, and then Colt Langdon from Butler. So a good roster that Will Wade went Portland, going to the free agency of college basketball as we know it. I think they're going to be just fine competing. Major step up from 16th. They could be a top 3 team, absolutely. And Will Wade knows how to win immediately, and he doesn't like to lose. So I trust him at the helm, and NC State has a bright to even in year 1 here with the pieces they bring in.
Yeah, personally, to rank North Carolina and not rank NC State, just looking at the rosters as a whole is pretty disrespectful in my opinion. They bring in the best player, if not maybe the second best player from Texas Tech's Elite 8 run last year, in Darian Williams. He was a first-team All Big 12 selection last year. Averaged 15.5 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Was just your typical stat stuffer. Was kind of the 1-2 punch with him and JT Toppin. And then you bring in Terrence Arsenault from Houston, another guy who played in the national championship game against Florida. Played a key role. Was kind of a guy off the bench, but was able to play very good defense and be kind of a good piece for Kelvin Sampson there. So you bring in 2 guys that are winners, proven winners that were in at least the Elite 8 last year and in the Big 12 conference, which, as I've always said, is one of the I think is definitely better than the ACC. So the fact that you bring in 2 of those players who played significant minutes there in the Big 12, that's going to translate immediately to the ACC level. You bring in Trey Holloman from Michigan State as your point guard and played 3 seasons under Tom Izzo, yet another guy with veteran experience. And then you bring in Vin Allen Lubin from North Carolina, who started at North Carolina last year and was kind of a key piece to pushing them to the NCAA tournament, even though we think that maybe they probably didn't deserve it. But he was that key piece who was able to help them kind of solidify some wins down the stretch. And then the guy that I'm high, and the highest on that they took over from McNeese State is Kadir Copeland. I think he's going to significantly impact them tremendously on the defensive level as well. And not to mention, you also bring in over Aura. So we always got to talk about Aura coming in with the new NC State boombox. So elite intangibles along with a veteran-laden roster. I think NC State's going to be a team to be reckoned with, and they're definitely not going to be 16th. I will bet the house that they will not finish 16th again here in the ACC this year.
Yes, very excited for NC State. I'm kind of excited for this team too. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish out of South Bend, last season 15-18, ACC 8-12, tied for 9th, 3 returning starters for Coach Micah Shrewsbury, 28-38, 2 years under his helm. Brings back Braden Shrewsbury, Marcus Burton, who is their absolute centerpiece. So hopefully they can take a step up. They definitely could be a wild card. Marcus Burton, absolute dog, knows how to run that isolation, and Shrewsbury does a great job. I trust him offensively. He's going to play that kind of small ball and be able to spread the floor, do that kind of motion style offense, and spread the floor, isolating, but also doing like 5 passes before a shot. So. It was a tough go for Notre Dame. It has been, but they did okay in the ACC. I thought that at times they can compete, and if Marcus Burton could come back, I definitely see that they could be okay. But they lack depth, so come March, there could be issues if they're unhealthy. But this is another wild card piece for the ACC for me. That out of the bottom barrel teams that we're going to mention, all these kind of mediocre more teams, they're higher up for me on that list.
Yeah, another team here in the ACC that I think has a hell of a backcourt, but lacks severely there in the front court. You mentioned Marcus Burton. Another guy that they bring in is the highest ranked recruit that they've ever brought in, and 4-star freshman Jalen Harrelson comes in from Indiana's La Lumiere school. Averaged 16 points a game there last year. Shrewsbury is high on him. He basically said that I'm signing him on a 9-month lease because he thinks he's probably going to go somewhere else, if not transfer up higher level or go to the NBA kind of immediately. You also have Braden Shrewsbury, coach's son, back, averaged 14 points last year and shot 37% from the 3, made 153s in his first 2 seasons. So another guy in the backcourt to go alongside Marcus Burton. So you kind of got that 3-headed dragon there with them. And then a couple other guys that I'm pretty high on that they brought back also. Cole Serta, he's a guy that only played 8 minutes a game, but I think he's someone that will be able to take a step forward here in his sophomore year. And then Sir Muhammad and Garrett Sundra are two other sophomores that I expect to, they played some significant minutes down the stretch. I expect them to have had a great offseason and take that next step forward for Coach Shrewsbury here. So yeah, I think you're right on in saying definitely a wild card team. I think, like I said, backcourt is tremendous with those three that I mentioned, including that freshman. But the front court, big question mark, and then the depth of the team overall is a big question mark. You lack in the front court already, and then you don't really have anybody else to back up that front court. So I think that could pose a problem for teams that can maybe expose them that have a true front court and kind of rotate and make those front court players tired. So we'll see how that plays out for them. But like I said, you can go a long way with solid guard play, and that's something that Notre Dame has. So it makes them definitely a good wild card team that people should look out for this year.
All right, the Pittsburgh Panthers out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania last season, 17
I'm
and
with Ken
15.
on this though. I'm doing this.
Oh, absolutely. We're so high on LIU. Love them. Last season, 17 and 15, 8 and 12. Jeff Capel entering his 8th year, 114 and 107. So I don't know. He's been kind of underimpressive in my opinion, but they've always been able to have talent, and I feel like they're competitive, ultra competitive at first, and then just kind of blunder out. And that's kind of what we've seen under Capel's program in his teams lately. But last year it was a major nosedive. So I think there'll be just a equilibrium from last year. I think that we're going to see yet again the same thing. I need to be able to be proven differently. But you do have some talent for sure, and you go get some freshmen as well. And Kieran Mullen, the 7-footer Canadian, Amandi and Jai, 6'10" forward. So he loves going for those lanky kind of guys. Always, and then a UAB transfer from as well that's going to make an immediate impact. But I don't know if they're as talented as they were last year, on paper at least. But they definitely didn't perform to their expectations. But I'm not too high on them. I think it's going to be just another middle of the road for Pitt for me.
Yeah, what Capel's done there. I know his record doesn't really show it, 114, 107 in his 7 years. But when he took over this team in 2018, they were fresh off of coming off of an 8-24 season, which included an 0-18 trip in the ACC. So the fact that he's kind of able to kind of switch things around and allow them to get to the NCAA tournament a couple years. I think he's done a pretty decent job. He lost the two Diaz-Graham twins last year, who transferred out. But he did bring in Dyshawn Jackson, 6'11", 270-pound forward from Iowa State. I think that's a good get for him. He started 33 games for the Cyclones last year. Only played about 18 and a half minutes, I think, just due to conditioning and not being able to play a lot more than that. But I think that was a big get for him there in the portal. And I agree. I think they're kind of on the other side of things and kind of opposite of Notre Dame. They might have a better front court, but I think they maybe potentially lack some depth and some just backcourt pieces. I think maybe they have a few freshmen in Makari Moore and Amari Witherspoon, who can be those guys to fill in some of those minutes there in the backcourt. However, they're unproven. So we'll kind of see what happens here at the beginning of the season and see if they're able to kind of make an immediate impact in terms of that. I know, Barry Dunning Jr., he's a guy that I think they're going to try to rely on there in the backcourt, coming from South Alabama. Originally started at Arkansas, went to UAB, now finished up at South Alabama before transferring over to Pitt here. So I think they're going to rely on him pretty heavily in the backcourt. But I think overall, I'm right there with you. Maybe not as talented. I see them maybe finishing in a similar spot. Not too high, not too low on them this year. nothing too, nothing jumps out at the page at me. And I don't really think, they're going to be one of those teams that is kind of pushing the envelope for top half of the conference. I think maybe 6-7 is set, not even 7 really. Yeah, again, 2 nights in a row. Uh, like probably really 7 or 8. I'll go 7-8. I'm not doing this. 7-8 is probably their ceiling. I will say DeMarco Minor, another guy, Oregon State, um, is a kind of a proven point guard as well. So maybe they do have a few pieces in the backcourt. Now they look a little bit further into it, but nothing really jumps out at the page in regards to me in that.
SMU, Southern Methodist, the Mustangs out of Dallas, Texas last season, 24-11, 13-7, and tied for fourth. 3 returning starters under Andy Enfield in his first year, and definitely overperformed, I would have to say. I enjoyed I enjoyed watching SMU. I thought they were very good, and at times, but against the lower half of the conference, they only competed against those kind of lower end teams, these mediocre teams, versus when they got to compete in the bright lights. It wasn't the most one of the best, but they do bring back 3 returning starters, so I think they'll be right back in contention yet again. You have Boopy Miller. You gotta love Boopy Miller. You got B.J. Edwards coming back. Samet Yen. I can't even say. I never can say that name. But 7'2" guy. Samet's back. Offensively, man, they're good. And then you bring in Jason Pierre Jr. from Southern Miss, who was their key centerfold piece, and then Corey Washington from Wichita State. So love the pieces that they bring in. I think offensively they're going to be a juggernaut in the ACC yet again, and hopefully they're going to be able to compete with some of these top end teams versus these lower half teams. But very good for Enfield in his first year. Really excited about SMU yet again.
Yeah, that Yigatogalu or whatever, that 7-2 guy. I was really impressed with him last year. Averaged 10.6 rebounds. I think he takes a step forward. I think Sam Walters coming over from Michigan, another guy, 6'8", 230 pounds, kind of a former top 60 recruit. I think he kind of solidifies their front court a little bit. You mentioned Jaron Pierre Jr. I'm pretty high on him. Put up tremendous numbers at Jacksonville State last year. Conference USA Player of the Year, averaging just over 21.5 points a game, shooting 38.2% from the 3. Another guy that I'm kind of high on too is Jermaine O'Neal Jr. People might remember Jermaine O'Neal, Pacers, former Pacers guy. Not quite as big as his dad. He's only 6'6". However, he was 114th overall recruit here in the nation. So I think that could be possibly a good get for them as well. And then Billy White III, another freshman, 6'7" forward, was a top 50 recruit for 2026. He actually reclassified and joined SMU this season. So I think he's going to be, a guy that is going to be able to make an immediate impact because, why else would you reclassify from the 2026 season if you don't think you can provide immediate minutes and be a player there immediately? He averaged 19 points, 10 rebounds at Corpus Christi. So I think he's yet another guy that'll be a key piece for him as a freshman. So I'm pretty high on SMU here. I like what the pieces that they brought in here in the portal, and obviously the pieces that they brought back. It all starts with Boopy Miller. He had injured that foot last year. So as long as he's able to stay healthy, I think everything kind of runs through him. And you mentioned Corey Washington from Wichita State. I watch Wichita State pretty regularly. My grandparents are huge fans of Wichita State, of the Shockers. And, he was a second team all league player last year in the American. And I think he kind of does it all, averaged 14 points, 7.5 rebounds. So I think you're going to see him kind of show out this year for SMU. I think it was a really good get for them. I was kind of disappointed that Paul Mills wasn't able to keep Corey Washington there. But, SMU, they've got money for sure. So I think that's how they're able to kind of get some of these not necessarily higher level recruits, but some decent recruits, pull them in, and then also get some top tier freshman talent as well.
All right, the Stanford Cardinal out of Palo Alto last season, 21-14, 11-9 in the ACC, finished seventh. I thought that was a great year for year one of Kyle Smith. Two returning starters under Stanford. So, hey, man, they did good and it was fine just gelling into the not so Atlantic Conference and bring back Ryan Argarwal and Chisholm Okpora. So, I think those guys are going to take major steps. Who were pieces last year that were right away, right away. Heavy usage, a lot of possession time, and I think it's even going to take even more of a step up as well too. Bringing back some key reserves also, and Evan Stinson and Aiden Cameron. So yeah, a couple D2 grabs it looks like for Kyle Smith. So I trust him. I think he's actually a pretty good coach. I mean, year one going in right away to finish seventh, 11-9 against some of these teams that are decently talented. So Stanford overperformed for me, absolutely, and I think that there's a chance that they could. But on paper, I think they're really lacking talent compared to some of these teams. So on paper, I'm going to have them kind of low, but again, all these teams are pretty wild cards. So yeah, bottom of the barrel of the ACC, unfortunately for the Cardinal, but I like Kyle Smith a lot.
Yeah, I think it was a surprise season last year in that first year there in the ACC. But you lose Jalen Blakes, who was a starter for them last year, and then you lose Combo Guard Osiah Sellers, and also Reynaud. So it's tough because you lose all those guys. Maxime Reynaud, you look at him, averaged 20 and 10, spent 4 years there for the Cardinal. Those three guys are those missing pieces of that talent that they had last year that I think they're lacking this year. You look at what they brought in via the portal and kind of via the freshman class, and you're not really seeing the type of talent that they had in terms of those three players. So I think they're definitely going to take a significant step back this year for sure. The other thing that I'll mention too is they don't really test themselves in the non-conference. I mean, you kind of you got 2 games, I guess you should say 3 games away from your home court, and really, I mean, you could say Montana's a decent team, obviously, but you're playing them at home. But then you play Minnesota on a neutral. You go at San Jose State, and you go at Colorado. And we know, from last year or from last night's Big 12 preview, we're not very high on Colorado. So the fact that those are kind of your high major non-conference games kind of scares me a little bit, especially for a new team, because then they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they start conference play, open up with Notre Dame, and then have Louisville at home on January 2nd. So, uh, I think it's definitely going to be a step back for the Cardinal here.
Absolutely. Elliot. Not the one you're reading, but be ready. You're on deck for the next one. And Mr. First Year over in Tiki Torch Land. Syracuse Orange out of New York, Syracuse, New York, and 14-19, 7-13 last year. Finished second, or not. 2 returning starters finished 14th, and Adrian Autry year 2. Coming up on year 3. We've talked about it before with our Sienna preview. I'd love to see Jerry McNamara for this team, but a little extension for Adrian Autry and some trying to raise some funds for the NIL to rebuild this program. But you do bring back JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman, who were the main pieces here. But Syracuse defensively has just lacked, man. I feel like they've lacked physicality. They don't really have that perimeter kind of style of defense, and the no 2-3 is long gone under Jim Boeheim. But man, I think Syracuse could take maybe a step up. I just worry about their defense and being able to play both sides of the ball. Um, but maybe this is just the end where hopefully what we talked about is Siena winning their conference, maybe making an NCAA tournament bid. Then Jerry McNamara takes that stepping stone in to Syracuse's job, and it's again just a blunder year for that. But Carmelo Anthony going to donate some money, I'm sure. Going to get some funds, hopefully, back again for Syracuse. And they have a good football coach. Their football and Fran Brown. I think Autry is an okay coach, but I don't know if he's the right call. But Syracuse is believing in him. We'll see how it goes. Yet again, just a high-powered offense with little defense again for the Orange.
Yeah, in terms of last year finishing 14th, I actually think that they're going to take a pretty good step up here. Um, in terms of, I just think they brought in a lot more talent. Nate Kings comes over from Oregon State, averaged 12 points, shot 44.5% from the three. Something that they lacked last year was 3-point shooting. Couldn't really shoot it as efficiently. I mean, I know you had mentioned their top two leading scorers return, which is always helpful. But other than them, they didn't have very many pieces outside of them that they could really rely on. And then another guy that comes in from the DME Academy from Mali, Tefang Diawara. He's a 7-footer, kind of a rim protector. So, you look at, like you were saying, lack of defense. I think they lacked rim protector last year as well, which really hurt them. So that's kind of a guy that I think maybe could possibly be, the future starting center for them. Maybe not this year, or maybe kind of at the end of the year. But I think he's somebody that they're bringing in to kind of help shore up that defense. Another guy is William Kyle III, comes over from UCLA, was a 6'9", 230-pound guy. Before UCLA, he was at South Dakota State, where he was the Summit League Defensive Player of the Year. So again, I think Autry's kind of, making the appropriate decisions there in the transfer portal to try to shore up the defense, and then also, provide some shooting to fill around those top two leading scorers that are returning that you had mentioned. And then, like you said, Keon Anthony, biggest kind of name in the class, obviously 6'5" guard. We'll see if he, how many minutes he plays, if he starts, if he kind of comes off the bench. Curious to kind of see, what the plan is for him. And then lastly, Bryce Zephyr. He was at Montana State last year, started about 15 games for them, but before then he was at North Texas. So another guy, proven on the defensive end. So I think Autry did a great job there, in the portal to kind of try to shore up the defense. Not saying it's going to really come to fruition, but I think he made an effort there, which I definitely like to see. And I think, the talent that he brought in definitely showed that Syracuse was a little bit better there on the NIL front this year as well. So in terms, when you put all that together, I think that's where we see, a Syracuse team maybe jump up 3-4 spots here in the ACC. I think their talent level is going to be allow them to compete here in the ACC. But like you said, if they can't get stops night in and night out, it's going to be difficult for them to get any better than 500 in the ACC.
All right, Elliot.
All right, let's do it. The Virginia Cavaliers out of Charlottesville, Virginia, last season finished 15-17, 8-12 in the ACC, which was tied for ninth. They have 0 returning starters, and we have a brand new coach, first-year coach Ryan Odom. He comes over from VCU. Sorry, froze there for a second. And I kind of like, VCU's kind of been a hot spot. They another just similar to Utah State. It's a stepping stone for coaches to kind of get a high major head coaching job. And now he arrives here at Virginia basketball, trying to get Virginia back on track. I think two of the biggest pieces that Ryan Odom brought in are 2 Europeans in Thies de Ritter coming from Belgium, and then a 7'1" freshman, Johan Grunlow, coming from Germany. So kind of some international flavor that he kind of starts out with. De Ritter, he's a guy that was one that withdrew from the NBA draft kind of midway through June. He's 23, so he's an old, kind of seasoned veteran there in the basketball world. He'll end up being a junior. I think he'll have 2 years of eligibility. So you got two kind of big guys up front in 6'8" DeRitter and 7'1" Grunlow. And then you look at all the other transfers that they kind of bring in. I'm high on a few. One of them, Malik Thomas, comes over from San Francisco, averaged just under 20 points a game last year, and shot just under 40% at 39.4% from the three. Led the West Coast Conference in scoring and was 22nd in the nation in scoring. So first team All WCC last year. I think this is going to be a great move. As we say, all coast conference. Well, we get all coast players. Malik Thomas coming from the West Coast to the East Coast here to Virginia. And then you bring in Sam Lewis, another guy who was, the top scorer for his team there at Toledo, averaged 16 points, shot 44.5% from the three, and was fourth in the Mid-America Conference MAC. And then you bring in also Jakari White from North Dakota State. Again, top scorer. You kind of see a theme here with 17 points a game. Again, 39.5% from three, almost 40%. And then lastly, Devin Tillis, guy from UC Irvine. Yet again, double figures there at Irvine, almost 14 points a game. And again, almost that 40% clip, 39.5% from the three. So you kind of see from the portal pieces, he's coming in from those mid-major ranks and bringing guys that have significant talent in scoring the basketball and shooting the basketball. And it's something that, we've seen there at VCU. And so I like everything that he's brought in, and I'm curious to kind of see what you think about maybe a few other transfers that come from more of the high major ranks, and just kind of what you think that Ryan Edelman's is going to do here in his first year at Virginia.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think it's a perfect transition and for coaching and the VCU way, going directly into Virginia. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, you got Dallin Hall from BYU, got some VCU guys as well transferring immediately over. Devin Tillis from UC Irvine. Sorry if you mentioned these. I think you mentioned Jakari White. I think I heard that. But yeah, I'm super high on Virginia. I think it's going to be a huge step up from last season offensively, and defensively, bringing that VCU kind of tradition into Virginia. So staying in the state, always kind of intra higher is what I'm going to call it. But yeah, I think Virginia is going to be super competitive, win some games, and be at the middle top half of the conference.
Yeah. And I'll mention a couple other guys came from the Big 12 ranks. Ugonna Onyensu originally started out at Kentucky, 7-footer, was a former 5-star recruit, was at K-State last year. Kind of a guy that never really got a lot of burn for us here at K-State. Very good defensively, kind of struggles offensively, but I think he fits that role of a rim protector in Ryan Odom's style. And then Dalen Hall, kid from BYU, 6'4" guard, shoots it at a pretty high clip, can play defense as well. So I think two guys, coming over from the Big 12, another high major conference, coming down to the ACC and kind of fitting in Ryan Odom's philosophy. So those two other guys I'm pretty high on as well. So I like what he has, and I think that they will possibly be one of those teams that makes a NCAA tournament berth this year potentially.
All right, the Virginia Tech Hokies, Blacksburg, Virginia, 13-19, 8-12, tied for ninth. 3 returning starters though for Mike Young. If you look at his record of 105 and 85, 6 years, so his first losing season is for his tenure here. And they have some pretty good pieces. I like the guys that they have. Isaiah Pasha from Delaware transfer coming in. Ben Hammond. Um, so some CAA guys coming in right away because Delaware was CAA when he played. And I think the transfer portals that they got, Young's trying to figure out the portal right away. He kind of just got hurdled into it right away. In Virginia Tech, good find with Padua or Sean Padula, and then he leaves for Ole Miss, so finds it both ways. But yeah, man, I think that they're going to be pretty physical. I think they have one of the best firepower and another wild card team. It was just so disappointing last year to watch. They really lacked to again give a shit, but they play go to the Atlantis tournament, play some good competition out there in their MTE, so or whatever it is called held whatever PLE. God, I don't even MTE is that like fucking the military thing or whatever that they eat. But anywho, ME I don't know. I'm done talking. I'm running out of teams. We're doing 18 teams here for the ACC. And, but yeah, the guy I'll point out is Jalen Bedford as well from UNLV. He averaged 10.3 points per game. So a lot of guys that can score that you add, I think was the missing link for Virginia Tech last year. So I think it's going to be an improvement on 13-9, but maybe right around where they are, finished tied for ninth like last season in the ACC.
Yeah, a few guys that I'll mention. You kind of covered that backcourt, but forward Toby Lawal comes back. He was a 6'8", 200 pounds forward that tested kind of the NBA draft waters, but then opted to come back to Virginia Tech. Last year, averaged 12 and a half points, 7 rebounds, and shot 56% from the floor. They pair him. He'll kind of start at the 4. They pair him with a kind of an undersized guy at the 5. However, he's very physical. Comes from West Virginia as a transfer. Amani Hansberry averaged 10 points, 6.5 rebounds last year for the Mountaineers. And so I think they kind of have a good 1-2 punch down low there in the front court. And then not to mention you add in 7-foot German center Antonio Dorn. I think he's a guy that comes over from Germany, might have only 1 year of eligibility, possibly 2, depending on the NCAA ruling. We know how that kind of goes. We'll see, especially with the fresh news of Ty and Grant Foster not getting his eligibility renewed. So who knows? But even if it's just this 1 year, that adds you another significant depth piece there in the front court. So I think they can do a lot of damage there in the front court. I think they will definitely rely on that. And then kind of another guy I'll mention, another international player, Nicholas Avdelas. He comes from Greece, kind of was entering the NBA draft and then ended up after the combine bounced back to Virginia Tech. So uh, I don't really know what to think of this team. I think they've got the talent to be good. I think they're more talented than last year's roster, which I think is why I see that maybe Mike Young will be able to flip the script and have another above 500 season. Maybe flip it completely and maybe have a 19-13 season, 12-8 in the ACC possibly. But yeah, time will tell. I do like the team with the talent. However, comparative to the rest of the ACC, I'm not quite sure if it's gonna be able to get the job done to make an NCAA tournament.
All right, the final team, Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Last season, 21-11, 13-7 in the ACC, tied for 4th. One returning starter under Steve Forbes, 92-55, 5 years. But we know what we're going to get with Steve Forbes lately. He kind of gets knocking on the door. He feels good. He feels happy. Things feel great. They're contenders. People are super high on them, and then they fall flat yet again closer to the tournament. But he dove into the portal and he dove well. He brings in Nate Calmesi from Washington State. I think it's going to be making an immediate impact and one of the more sought out players in the portal. So good job for Steve Forbes. You bring in Trevon Spillers as well from Appalachian State. Cooper Schweiger, a pump fake pod specialist as well too from Valparaiso. Miles Colvin, who was a bench player for Purdue, but definitely a good role player as well. And then Sebastian Atkins from Denver, who averaged 12.7 points per game. So a decent backcourt, good front court. Wake Forest going to be very disciplined, but for me, they got to be on the brink of an NCAA tournament bid under Steve Forbes, right? I'd have to hope. They've been so close yet again every year, but they if it feels like that with a lot of these teams in the ACC, but especially Steve Forbes' Wake Forest team. But I think he's a great coach. He knows how to win in this conference. Let's see if he can eclipse that NCAA tournament. But yeah, Wake Forest will be just yet again very good in the top half of this conference.
Yeah, I thought, Steve Forbes kind of maybe would have been or has been on the hot seat a little bit here as of late. I think, 21 and 11, 13 and 7. I think that'll get the job done to kind of keep your job for a while. But yeah, Cooper Schweiger, you mentioned him. I'll just shout out Cooper Schweiger. Comes from Blue Valley Southwest here in Kansas City. So always love seeing local kids make a good impact. And started at Valparaiso, played a couple years there at Valpo. Has kind of solidified him, showing that he can produce, and now he gets a chance to jump up to the ACC. So that's always cool. Another guy I'll mention, guard Makai Mason, comes over from Washington. Yet another kind of transfer scorer for Coach Forbes here. Averaged 10 points a game, shot 40% from the three last year. And then lastly, Juke Harris. He's kind of a guy that averaged was there at Wake Forest, returns, kind of been in the system there for Forbes. Averaged 6 points last year. Think maybe he can take a step forward as well. And then lastly, a guy that I'll mention that I think if he can stay healthy, could possibly be Wake Forest's best player. Former 5-star recruit Omaha Blue comes from, he originally began his career at Iowa State, but has kind of just continuously got hurt. Last year, played in 13 games, but then suffered a Jones fracture in his foot. So kind of got had to, has had the bad injury bug. It's kind of bit him here as of late. But if he can stay healthy, I think that he's a guy that 6'8", 230 pounds, can shoot the three, can kind of stretch the floor as well. Very athletic. Watch out for him. And I hope that he does stay healthy because he's super talented, fun to watch, and I think he could play a very key piece here for the Demon Deacons. Like I said, as long as he stays healthy. So I think Steve Forbes, he brought in some good pieces, and I expect, going to be hard to maybe be tied fourth again with all the other additions to this conference in terms of new coaches and new talent. But they're going to be competitive, and they're going to be in the top half, just like you said, Huff. I agree.
All right, time to rank them. 18 onward. Let's get into it. 18th for me is going to be Boston College. Boston College out of Chestnut Hill. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was scrolling up here, get this going. I can't do that to my guy. So I am going to have a little bit of respect for Coach Grant there at Boston College. Not going to quite put them there on the bottom. And I'm going to go with Stanford, the Cardinal, at 18th. Surprise season last year, but a little dose of reality this year.
Okay. Let's see. And media poll, we can say the media poll, I guess. Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, SMU, Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Florida State. Wow. So Cal, Stanford, Boston College. So very interesting stuff there. I'm going to go I'm going to go 17th. I'm going to go Cal.
Cal for me is 17. Going West Coast teams are going to be at the very bottom for me. I think it's tough travel spots continuously all throughout the ACC. And they don't have talent.
16th for me is Stanford.
16th for me is going to be Boston College. This is where I have BC. A little bit of respect for my man Earl Grant.
15th for me is going to be I'm gonna go shit, man. I don't know. I'm gonna go Florida State. It's tough.
Florida State, you said?
Yep.
Yeah. 15th, I got Florida State as well. Unproven coach.
Uh, 14th for me is going to be Syracuse.
$14th for me, I've got Pittsburgh.
Georgia Tech 13th for me.
I've got Syracuse coming in at 13. Did you give it your 11?
12. I said 12th Pittsburgh.
You said 12 Pittsburgh? Sorry, you cut out, so I didn't hear you. 12 for me is going to be Georgia.
Pittsburgh.
12 for me is going to be Georgia Tech.
Okay. 11th for me is going to be I'm gonna go Notre Dame here for 11th.
Yep. I've got Virginia Tech here at number 11.
Okay. Tenth for me is going to be Virginia Tech, I guess. I think they could be good, though, and Notre Dame.
Yeah, so for me, I'll flip-flop. I got 10. I got Notre Dame at 10.
9th for me is Clemson.
I've got, man, this is tough. I'm trying to decide.
I mean, at this point, it's just like a win or two away. They're all pretty similar. I
Yeah,
feel like it's like if you tier it.
Yeah, I'm going to go, in terms of this, I'm going to go Clemson at 9. I'll agree with you here because then I think I know what I'm going to do for these next couple.
Virginia for me, 8th.
SMU for me is 8th.
Wake Forest for me, 7th.
Wake Forest for me is 7.
All right, we're tied there. 6 for me is SMU.
6 for me is Virginia, so we'll flip-flop those.
I had 8th Virginia, but 5th for me is going to be
I know. I said we're flipping those. I had
yeah. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, yep. 5th for me is going to be I'm going to go I kind of want to say North Carolina here, but I think I'm going to fuck
If you
North
don't,
Carolina.
I will.
I'm going North Carolina here 5th.
Okay, 5th for me. I'll do Miami. I'll be a little bit. I'll use my brain rather than my heart. So I'm gonna go Miami 5th.
Okay, 4th for me is Miami.
4th for me is North Carolina. If you weren't gonna do it, I was gonna flip and do North Carolina 5th because fuck North Carolina.
3rd for me is NC State.
We might have the same top. 3rd for me is NC State as well.
And 1st for me is Louisville. 2nd Duke.
Yep, cosign. I can't put Duke at the top.
1st Louisville. 2nd Duke. 3rd NC State. 4th Miami. 5th North Carolina. 6th SMU. 7th Wake Forest. 8th Virginia. 9th Clemson. 10th Virginia Tech. Notre Dame 11th. Pitt 12th. Georgia Tech 13th. Syracuse 14th. Florida State 15th. Stanford 16th. California 17th. And Boston College 18th.
Yeah, for me, I have Louisville at number 1, Duke number 2, NC State number 3, North Carolina at the 4th spot, Miami number 5, Virginia number 6, Wake Forest number 7, SMU number 8, Clemson number 9, Notre Dame 10, Virginia Tech 11, Georgia Tech 12, Syracuse 13, Pittsburgh 14, Florida State 15, Boston College 16, California 17, and rounding out the ACC in 18th is Stanford.
All right, this is the Pump Fake Pod ACC preview. Thanks everyone in the chat for tuning in. Austin, Virgil, Redman, Ken. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for chopping up the ACC with us. You heard it here first. Make sure to like and subscribe. We got 2 conference previews left. SEC Monday, Big Ten Tuesday, Futures and Top 25 episode on Wednesday, and then the big mega show on Sunday, November 2nd. So make sure to tune in. This is the Pump Fake Pod. Like and subscribe. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you guys. Peace and love.